You are listening to the Navigating Adult ADHD podcast, where it's all about education, support, and coaching for adults with ADHD. I'm your host, Xena, a late diagnosed ADHDer, here to help you unpack the challenges, frustrations, and the positive side of living with ADHD. With my no BS approach, I'll help you to better understand your unique ADHD brain and how you can work with it to feel better, increase your self-confidence, improve your relationships, and ultimately achieve your goals. Hello, my friends. Welcome back to podcast day. I was going to tell you it's so cold today. It's so funny because I caught up with one of my best friends yesterday. She lives in America, in Colorado, and she was wearing like a singlet top and telling me how hot it is. And I'm recording this today on the 7th of June, and it's winter here in New Zealand, and I'm layered up. I actually have a heated blanket on me. It is the best invention ever, seriously. So it's like a soft, fluffy blanket that you would like snuggle with on the couch, except you plug it in and you heat it up. Best thing ever. I'm telling you, best thing ever. All right, my friends, today we are talking about burnout. And I have talked about this from a different perspective back in episode number 24, and I definitely encourage you to listen to that episode if you resonate with this one, if burnout is something you are struggling with or you are aware of, if it's on your radar. Then episode number 24 was about dopamine debt, where I talked about apathy and, the links to burnout, etc. in that. So I'll link to that in the show notes because that is all about this topic as well. So burnout effectively is a state of emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion, right? So our brain and body were exhausted, all the things. And it's caused by excessive and prolonged stress. So we can experience burnout when we have overwhelm and we are emotionally drained and just unable to meet the constant demands of our lives. So ADHD burnout is in part what led me to get my diagnosis, although I didn't realize that I was in burnout or how long I'd even been in that place. But part of it was the burnout and part of it was the hormonal changes. So that is what led me to go in and get the official diagnosis and start medication. Now, part of what led me to get burned out, which I have kind of investigated, is I had tied my self-worth to my business and the success of my clients and my business and how well it was doing. And my brain had become very obsessed with trying to figure out the right thing to do. Like, what's the right thing to say? What's the right thing to put out there? What's the right way to word that email, etc. Now, that is perfectionism, okay? But at the time, I didn't realize what was happening. I didn't know, and I didn't see the warning signs. I wasn't even aware of, what to look for with burnout. And one of the things that I had done, which now is part of my signs that I could be experiencing or heading towards burnout, is that I had stopped coaching myself. And self-coaching is a big part of my life. So it's basically like saying I had stopped brushing my teeth. What? So, as people with ADHD, we are more prone to experiencing burnout than our neurotypical friends. And it is even more common for women with ADHD. And I'm going to highlight why that is today. Now, before I go any further, I don't know if you guys are going to be able to hear this, but there is this little kind of crackling sound in the background. And here's what that is, okay? My birthday was a few weeks ago, and my dad, he got me a very large balloon structure. I don't even know what else to call it, okay? And it's basically a multicolored palm tree, and I would say like be about 1.5 meters off the ground. It was pretty decent size. So it's all big balloons at the bottom, and then it's like 1.5 meters, kind of this palm tree with a monkey hanging off the side of this palm tree. This thing is wild. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you would have seen it. And if you don't, seriously, it's hilarious. You got to come hang out. But what's happening as I'm recording this podcast is the sun is shining into my office and it's hitting this balloon palm tree thing. And I think it's getting smaller in front of my eyes. The sun is doing something to the balloons and it's getting smaller. So anyway, all of that to say, if you guys can hear the crackling popping sound, it is a balloon structure. That's what's happening. All right. I got totally sidetracked. Don't you love just how ADHD that moment was? I love it. ADHD in real time, right there. All right, my friends. So in this episode, what we're covering is why we might experience burnout, okay? Also, we're going to talk about the signs and what to look for. I'm going to talk about what to do when you experience it, if you experience it. And then I formulated some things at the end, and I'm going to share with you 3 things that I recommend you start doing and 3 things I recommend you stop doing in order to avoid burnout, okay? That's what we're doing today. Let's go. So, first of all, why might we experience burnout, and why is this common for people with ADHD? So a large part of the problem is that as people with ADHD, we sometimes work harder at things than people who don't have ADHD, meaning we have to put in more effort mentally, emotionally, physically. We have to put in more effort to achieve the same thing. So what that means is we can, go into cognitive overload. We can use more of our energy stores than other people, okay? Another thing that I think is really important to mention is something called introspection. Now, that's a fancy ass word for saying the ability to tell what's happening in your body, okay? So introspection is basically being able to be aware of your thoughts, being able to tell what you're thinking, being able to tell what you're feeling, knowing when you need to go pee, right? It's being able to be aware of the signals and the senses and things that are happening in your body. So knowing that you're hungry, knowing that you need to have a drink, okay? So a lot of people with ADHD, they might forget to drink because they don't necessarily pick up on that signal in their body that they're thirsty, okay? So introspection is the ability to sense what's happening inside of your body, much like a sensor. So you may not even notice the level of stress that you are under, or you may have trouble recognizing that you need to rest, or that your body is extremely tired, or you're having a lot of fatigue. Or you may not recognize, a pain signal coming in from a headache until it's like a throbbing headache. So this as well is part of the reason that we can experience burnout, because we don't necessarily see these things as they're coming. Now, here's the best news. This is something we can develop. This is a skill we can develop, okay? So sticking with why we might experience burnout, I want to switch to women specifically. Women with ADHD can experience burnout due to gender role expectations. Okay, and I have talked about that a little bit in the last couple of episodes where we've talked about boundaries and we've talked about social conditioning. Also, because of our hormonal fluctuations and the changes happening in our body, we may have less dopamine being produced, we may have less serotonin being produced, as well as other hormones that we need in order to function. And perfectionism for women. So often we set the bar really high for ourselves. We set it at a height that we just can't jump, and that can lead to burnout. Now, all people with ADHD, another reason that we could experience burnout because of the challenges that we experience with executive functions, or executive dysfunction in this case, okay? So let's talk about how to know when and if you are in burnout, okay? First of all, a lack of motivation. So if you're working out 4 times a week and you're somebody who usually really enjoys working out and you like working out, you're probably not going to want to do that. Okay, so if you enjoy playing with your kids, you're not going to want to do that. You'll probably do less of that. For me, I really noticed it as apathy. Things I would normally enjoy doing, I just felt, nah, I don't really care. Like I didn't feel, excited to do them, or I wasn't really looking forward to seeing my friends. One of the key signs was, and I think I've talked about this before, but we had a trip booked to Hawaii. So this is a few years ago. My partner and I were going to Hawaii, and I'd been there a few times, absolutely love Hawaii, one of my favorite places on the planet. And he kept saying to me, are you excited? Are you excited? And I was like, nah. Like I knew I was going to look forward to the trip. I knew I was going to enjoy the trip, but I wasn't actually looking forward to it. Like I wasn't excited. Like we just went to Rarotonga recently, and I was so excited for the trip. I was so looking forward to it, and there were so many beautiful emotions in that. But for the Hawaii trip a few years back when I was in burnout, I didn't experience that. I didn't get to enjoy the trip. I was just like, nah. Like that apathy, that lack of motivation. Also exhaustion. So no matter how much rest you get, no matter how much sleep you get, it is constantly feeling tired all the time. And that's mental, physical, emotional exhaustion. Another sign is disconnecting from or withdrawing from family and friends. Also feeling on edge all the time or anxious, like that constant anxiety or constant on edge feeling. I remember for me, when I was in this place and constantly on edge, like if I didn't know that my partner was about to stick his head around the stairs and like I was coming down the stairs, and I got a fright. It was like I just couldn't calm down from that because I was so on edge all the time. Again, that comes back to nervous system, and I don't want to get too much into that, but there we go. Poor performance. So, you may not feel as on top of your game at work as you usually are, or you may feel like, your standards have dropped. It may feel kind of really impossible to get things done or get the things that you would usually be able to get done. It may be almost impossible to get those done. Pain is another sign. So I know for me, I experienced a lot of neck and shoulder issues. Okay. But it can, when we're in a lot of stress like this, it can cause our body to, tell us via pain or experience a lot of pain. And it could be headaches, gut issues is often another one. And that's so interesting to me because when we know that, the majority of our serotonin is produced in our guts, it's telling me that, we're having challenges producing serotonin. So interesting. A whole episode that we have right here on that as well. But again, watching for pain signals, okay, whether it's headaches or stomach aches or neck and shoulder or other body pain. Irritability. I don't know about you guys, but I get pretty irritated anyway. That's a key symptom of ADHD for me. But when I was in burnout, when I think back, I was 24/7 irritable. I could find something positive and make it something irritating. I was like that, snapping at people all the time, yelling at the kids because they're playing too loudly, getting mad at your partner because, he didn't get you the flowers you wanted, or he forgot something at the grocery store, that level of irritability. Okay. And also troubled emotions. And we know, people with ADHD, we can have difficulty regulating our emotions, but taking this up a notch to the point where you might, not be smiling at people or cry at, really, really easily. When I was preparing this episode, it made me think of years ago, I was working in it was a flight center store, and I was booking travel for people, and I was running this travel agency, and we had a team, and we went through a staff shortage. So we had trouble getting people in, and we'd had some team members leave, and so we were short-staffed. And because I was the manager of the store, I was working 6-day weeks there for quite a while, and it was long days, long hours. And I was exhausted. I was burned out. Did not know that at the time, right? But I remember these two women coming in. It was on a Saturday. I was working the Saturday with a colleague, and these two women came in, and I priced them up this incredible, tropical island vacation together. And they went off to have a coffee, and they were coming back. And when they came back, I was out the back having lunch. And they said to my colleague, oh, just let her know that we're fine and we've decided just to press pause on the trip for now. And I heard that and I just started crying because I could hear it from out the back. And I just started crying. And my colleague said, oh, she's out the back. I'm sure she'll want to come up and see you because, in that situation, you'd normally ask some questions like, oh, is there, do you want me to give you anything else, or is there anything else I can help you with, what have you? And so my colleague came to get me, but I just was uncontrollable crying and I couldn't stop crying because these women are like, oh no, we're just not ready to book this trip right now, or we're going to take some time and think about it. And that just set me off. And I just remember I was out there for ages crying because I just couldn't stop. Okay, so even more challenges with your emotions, whether that's like the crying or, you just don't even want to smile at people. People smile at you and you're just like, ugh, can't be bothered, that kind of thing. And increased negativity or pessimism. Like it can feel almost impossible to feel good about something, to feel positive about something. Okay, that's another clear sign you're in burnout. Now, the first step in all of this is always recognizing and accepting this is burnout. Okay, I was coaching a client the other day and I was so proud of her because she said, you know what? I'm in burnout. I was like, yes, so proud of you for seeing that. Like she said, I have taken this whole week off because, I need it. That's what's happening right now. And that is such a powerful thing, to be able to accept it and recognize that this is what's happening and we need to take a step back. Okay. I know for me, when this happened a couple of years ago, it crept in so slowly. I did not realize it snuck up on me. I did not realize this for quite some time. So now that I know the signs and I've shared these signs with you and we know what to look for, we can be aware of, holy shit, I might be heading down that route. Okay. I want to brake this car and I want to start reversing. All right. Because that's not a drive I want to take. So how do we recover from burnout and how do we break that cycle? All right. So I've got a few things here. Number one, pay attention to your capacity. In episode number 62 of the podcast here, I talked a lot about understanding your capacity and working with the amount of mental, emotional, and physical energy that you have. Okay. And I used the example of a gas tank. Every day you wake up, you got a quarter of a tank. Things you do throughout the day are going to add to the tank. So that could be, for me, cuddling my cats. That adds to the tank. Going for a walk. For me, that adds to the tank. But other things we do will spend that. So that might be that I have to go to a meeting. That might spend some of my energy. Or, having to run around and drop the kids off at soccer practice and all of these different things. Like that could spend some of the energy in the tank. Okay. So paying attention to your capacity, right? Listening to your body, to your brain, to the amount of energy you have available to spend. And knowing what adds to your tank and what takes away from it. Okay. So basically this is knowing what your limits are so that you're not constantly overspending. And all of a sudden you're like, shit, I'm burned out. There's nothing left. Okay. It's like you've used up that line of credit. It's when you hit burnout. Also, boundaries. Boundaries is such a big one when it comes to breaking the cycle of burnout and recovering from it. Okay, so that was, I believe, last week's episode, I think, number 66. So the ability to say no, to be able to pay attention to where you could be feeling resentment. It's such a great question to ask yourself. Where am I feeling resentful? Why? What am I saying yes to that actually I want to say no to, right? Where do I need to set a boundary? What energizes me, right? And what depletes me? One of the things I will often do with clients is take them through an exercise to identify their values, to know, what it is that's most important to them in their life. And then that'll help them to understand why in certain situations they might feel uncomfortable, or I call it the cheese grater feeling, where, something feels out of alignment or off, or you just don't like it. And when we are aware of our values, we can put boundaries in place to spend less time with people who don't align with our values, or to move away from situations or, people or, tasks that don't align with our values, because that is such an energy suck. It really is. So again, boundaries is a big one, my friends. Number 3 is focusing on sleep. Now, I've got a whole episode here on sleep and how we can improve our sleep. And what was so interesting to me actually when I was on holidays, I read about a sleep study that was done, I don't know when, it was done ages ago. And what happened is, I think the guy was a radio host, and he did this in, I think it was Times Square, New York. I could be butchering the details. I'm just going to tell you what I remember in my head, in my version, okay? And he got this see-through capsule in Times Square, New York, and a bunch of researchers got involved and they wanted to measure him. And he stayed awake for, I believe, God, was it 180 hours? It was something ridiculous, multiple days. He stayed awake the whole time, and everybody could see him in his little see-through capsule. I don't know about you, but I started thinking, how did he go toilet? But never mind. So anyway, he was in this capsule, and over time he started to get the more sleep deprived he was, the more negative and pessimistic he became. And then he started to get into seeing and hearing things, and he kind of went into this psychotic state because of the deprivation of sleep. And it was so fascinating to hear about how, he basically became crazy because he was sleep deprived. And what's interesting when I think about this is it is one of the tactics that people use in I don't want to say hostage situations, where they capture somebody and they're trying to get information out of them. I don't know, there's a word for it, but it's one of the things that they use is they will deprive them of sleep and play heavy metal music and have flashing lights, etc. going, and put them into that state because their guard is down and they're just so desperate to get out of that. So all of that to say, sleep, my friends, is so important. It really, really is. And for me, creating an enjoyable bedtime routine and having a beautiful space that I love to get into and want to go to really, pretty early, but also committing to going to bed at a time that allows you to get adequate rest. That is something I reverse engineer and make sure, because some days I get up earlier because my client calls start earlier, my workday starts earlier. So I'm all about making sure I'm reverse engineering it to get enough sleep and adequate rest so that I don't end up getting exhausted or burned out. Okay. Number 4 is asking for and accepting help. This one can be hard for people with ADHD. Okay, and I'm sure people without ADHD too, right? But because we are people with ADHD, I am always so proud of the adults I know who have ADHD when they ask for help, okay? Because the reality is we can't do everything, and getting help makes our lives better and easier and human, it makes us human. And here's the thing, we deserve help. We do. Okay, whether that be going to see your doctor or another medical professional and asking for help, or speaking to your partner, your family, your friends and asking for help, having a chat with your boss at work and getting support. It could be outsourcing tasks getting a virtual assistant, or, talking about getting a cleaner coming in the house every few weeks. Ask for help, my friends, and accept it. Okay. Next up is do more of the things you enjoy. I talk a lot about this in that episode on dopamine debt. So when we are burned out, we have, depleted our dopamine. And dopamine is huge when it comes to feelings of motivation and also feelings of satisfaction and well-being. So by doing things we enjoy and things we want to do, we actually help to rebuild our dopamine levels. Okay, which we really want to do because that stuff feels so good. So do things you enjoy. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that and expand on it in a moment. Practicing self-compassion. Now, when you're in burnout, it is a time to really take care of you, because doing more is going to make it worse, not better. So Self-compassion is so big because you need time for you. Okay, if you're in burnout, it's time for you. And I'll often think about it and I'll encourage people to think about it by imagining you had a broken ankle. Okay, if you broke your ankle and you needed time to rest that injury, to rehab it, to go slow before you were able to resume more of your regular activities, that's exactly what it's like for burnout. Okay, we need the same. The same is true for ADHD burnout. We need that time to rest, to rehabilitate, to go slow before we ease back into those full-on regular activities. This is the opportunity to have your own back, right? To treat yourself with the same love and kindness and respect that you would treat your best friend or your kids or, somebody you love and care about. It is that time, okay? I will often hear from people who say, it doesn't feel safe. It doesn't feel safe to, to prioritize myself or to do these things. And something I will often tell myself when I'm struggling with something is it's safe. So it's safe to rest. It's safe to do less. It is safe to say no. It is safe to ask for help. The reality is that sometimes, we won't get into all of the brain wiring about this, but I do love that stuff. But the reality is that sometimes things don't feel safe for us, okay? And if we can let ourselves know, hey, it actually is safe and okay to ask for help. It is, and if the word safe doesn't resonate with you, you might swap it out for okay. It's okay to rest. It's okay to do less. It's okay to say no. It's about communicating to our brain, hey, it's okay to do those things so our body can kind of relax a little bit. Right? And then the last one I've got here when it comes to breaking the cycle of ADHD burnout and getting out of that place is to identify the primary source of your burnout, right? Now, for many ADHDers, it comes down to our jobs because there are a couple times in my life where I can identify that I was in it and it was definitely about my work. So, have you attached your self-worth to your work? Are you defining yourself based on your career? Have you set unreasonable expectations for yourself at work? Are you overworking? Are you afraid of, possibly being rejected or criticized? Is that RSD showing up? Are you struggling maybe with imposter syndrome or feeling inadequate? Have you possibly set the bar too high for yourself at work? When we can identify the primary source of it, that's when we can work on that. Okay, so I have loads of amazing podcasts here on all of the topics around, self-worth and RSD and self-esteem. We've got one coming soon on perfectionism, all of the things. But if this is something that you struggle with, then I recommend that you work with a coach or a therapist to really help you untangle yourself from these pressures, these expectations, and these kind of ties that you have. Okay? My friends, let's move to what I recommend you start doing and what I'm going to ask you to stop doing. I have 3 of each. So, I encourage you to start doing this. Schedule time for you. You schedule time in your calendar, non-negotiable time, just like if you had, an appointment that you had to go to for your health, right? It's the same. Schedule time to enjoy yourself and prioritize you. I shared a while back about somebody I met and his name escapes me. I want to say, is it Wiramu Matthews? I believe. I hope so. I shared this really cool concept that he had called the 15-3-1 method, which is you schedule 15 minutes a day, and then that's just for you. You can do whatever you want to rest, rejuvenate, whatever you like. 3 hours a week. So every week you have 3 hours where it's just for you. You're not It's not with, hanging out with the kids or the family. It's just for you to do what you want to do some stuff for you. All right, 15-3-1 and 1 day a month. Okay, so that's just an idea. It doesn't have to be that one, but one of the things I teach clients when it comes to scheduling is I use a system that I've created where we start with ourselves first, because that's generally the last thing that we try to fit in around everything else, but it's also the most important thing, us. So, making sure that you are scheduling time to enjoy yourself and prioritize you, okay? Even if it's once a week, like deliberate time for you, okay? Number 2, make a list of things you enjoy, especially things you enjoy doing that you may have neglected lately. One of my clients, she grew up riding horses on a farm, and she was telling me how, she really wished she could do that. And I said to her, let's do it. Like, let's prioritize it, book it in, plan it in advance and do it. And so she did. And then she was like, holy crap, I need to do this more often, because man, it filled up her dopamine, her serotonin. She felt incredible. It was just such a beautiful, positive experience that added to her tanks. So that is now something that she does regularly. Okay, a couple of days ago, I actually made a list of my people. So my friends, my family, people I love to be around and spend time with. And by doing that, by making that list, I actually sent a few messages out and, reconnected and arranged some catch-ups. So that for me is something I enjoy doing, is spending time with people. And lately, I haven't done a whole lot of that. So there we go. Make a list of things you enjoy and do them. And number 3 is to schedule a monthly well-being check-in with yourself, okay? I do this on the first of the month because it's easy for me to remember, and I just have it like a reoccurring appointment in my schedule. And I look back on my goals, my personal goals, as well as I'll usually look at professional as well, but I'm taking that time to basically check in deliberately with how am I feeling mentally, how am I feeling physically, and how am I feeling emotionally? Because sometimes, and we talked about this with regards to introspection, sometimes we don't pause to listen to that. We don't stop to long enough to see how are we truly, really feeling. Often I will ask questions when I take people through a consultation to see if we're a good fit to work together, is I will ask people these questions, and it can be kind of confronting because I'm asking questions like, how happy are you? Like on a scale of 1 to 10. And it's that moment where you really do have to pause and go, hang on a minute, I need to listen to that, right? And I'll ask various questions around this that do require some form of introspection to kind of pause and get clear on how we're feeling. So again, schedule a monthly well-being check-in for yourself, all right? 3 things to stop doing, my friends. I ask you to stop expecting yourself to work the same way and the same hours as your colleagues, okay? Just because Sally is the last one to leave the office every night does not mean you have to be that person, okay? Stop expecting yourself to work the same hours, the same ways that your colleagues do. Number 2, stop ignoring your stress signals, right? For some people it's weight loss, for others it's weight gain. Maybe it's headaches, gut issues, a racing heart. These are stress signals. Please take them seriously. My friends, please. And number 3, stop putting work above sleep. All right? Did you hear what I said about them sleep studies? Seriously, it makes people crazy. It does. When we deprive ourselves of sleep, we become more negative, more pessimistic. We literally become crazy. Okay? Working long hours does not make you more productive. I'm going to say it again. Working long hours does not make you more productive. In fact, less sleep, okay? Less sleep makes you less productive, all right? Proper sleep will help you get more done in less time. I promise you, all right? The studies prove it too. I saw something really cool the other day that I don't even know who to credit this to, but she said this. She said, rest is a weapon. And I was like, what? So it was a TikTok video and I was like, what? So I scrolled back and I went and had a look, and she said, rest is a weapon. It's not a nice to have or a should have. It makes you an actual weapon for living your best life. Damn, I liked that. All right. I want to end by telling you, my friends, that rest is not something you need to earn. And when I say rest, I mean physical, mental, and emotional rest. It is not something you need to earn. It is something that you need and you deserve, but it's something you need in order to thrive with ADHD. Okay? It is something you deserve to have and enjoy, right? Rest is an investment in a fulfilling life. All right, my friends, have a beautiful week. I'll speak to you soon. If you are loving what you're learning here on the podcast, but you still feel like your ADHD is holding you back, I can help. Using evidence-based coaching tools and my own experiences, I'll help you to manage your emotions and feel better, to increase your productivity, grow your self-confidence, and create the life that you were meant for. Visit xenajones.com/thrive and schedule an ADHD support session to get started.